live.
Heard but not
But
seen.
not heard but not
Let me
seen.
refresh.
Hello, lovelies.
Watch
Hello.
now.
Watch us now because
That's
we're
a cool.
taking
That's a cool
over.
picture.
Yeah, I like it a lot. Look at that little dragon.
It's the little pseudo dragon. That's right.
It's a little pseudo
That's
dragon.
little
I
pseudo
love
dragon.
them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's my favorite. But hey, folks, you guys, there's already so many of you in. What's up?
There are people here.
Hey, you guys were ready.
They were
But when are
ready
you not?
and waiting. Though my chat is not populating. Populate chat. There we go.
The chat is not populated.
There we go. There we go.
There we go.
I'm waiting for Amanda to make her announcement on the server, and then we'll switch over to where we are both seen and heard.
Oh, it has been made.
It has been made. The announcement has.
Manda makes it official.
Manda has
Amanda
officially made it official. So now we must, do the thing, friends.
Do the thing.
Do the thing. You
excited
get it.
about
I know
the
you
thing.
get it already. I got it. Gosh. I got it, Manda. God, there's always an adult in the room. We're just... All right, friends. All right.
Adult in the room, but kids in the Zoom. Let's go.
I am not going to acknowledge the fact that you just said that, Rachel. That is not happening right now.
It's okay. I acknowledge and encourage myself. I find myself very funny, and that's
you
all
are.
it is.
I mean, don't get me wrong. You are quite funny, but that is just wow. You watching us? Yeah, I know you're watching us, and you will definitely be watching us in 3, 2, 1. Oh, look at that! Fire! Hi, everybody. Hi. It is Lore Masters Arcanum night. It's a Wednesday night, and we are without our parent. And because we're without our parent, we brought a friend.
Hey, I'm
That's
your
right.
little father figure.
Right.
Like that.
No one's going to tell us when to go to bed.
Oh,
we're going to stay up
here's
and
the
eat all the
background.
ice cream we
Yeah,
want.
that's better.
There we go. Ooh, look at that. Digital backgrounds. How about that? How about that?
I need to get me one. You guys are just seeing where my cat's
Oh, that's enough out of you, Frilly. Anyway, hello everybody, and welcome to episode. Oh, I don't even know at this point. Something.
That's a good question. I'll check it real quick.
A lot. Lore Masters Arcanum.
It's 100 something.
100 something, right? Tonight's Lore Masters Arcanum is called to Running in Ravenloft. Why? Because we're talking about not only my favorite setting that has existed forever and a day, right? Because everybody's all like, ooh, Greyhawk, Forgotten Realms, all that jazz. Yeah, that's great. And I'm over here like, Ravenloft, yo, Realms of Dread. Let's go, right? So we are in the spirit of Halloween and all things spookiness. We're going to be talking about Ravenloft. Have you considered Ravenloft? Are you thinking about Ravenloft? Is Ravenloft just about a pretentious vampire sitting inside of a castle going boo-hoo is me and messing with your player group? Yes and no. No, there's more to it than that.
But only
a little. But only a little. We brought along with us the great and wonderful demon gun, John. He is our substitute, John. And so you will still get your John this evening. He is also a big fan of Ravenloft as well. And as us being the older, elder vampires, we have brought along our own Tatiana in the form of Rachel, who has no idea what she's getting into, other than it is dark and spooky, and she probably has people pursuing her for nefarious reasons. Because that's what happens. Yeah. This is the sexy John.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Officially. From the clip.
The hot mic got me.
Run, Rachel, run. The hot mic got him. All right. There we go. All right. So, that being said, friends, John, we're gonna start off with you because they already know Rachel and I, and most of them already know you, but you jumped at the chance to talk about some Ravenloft. So,
we respect it.
What is your fascination with Ravenloft, other than building every single map in existence on Tailspire for Ravenloft, Death House,
crazy.
and all of that. What else is it about Ravenloft that draws you in?
Well, oh, that's a good question. I mean, so I like Ravenloft. I like the setting. I like Barovia. I like the Curse of Strahd. I like the story and stuff. It's not my favorite genre, but I think it's the style of writing where it was one of the first settings I was exposed to where you get the most out of it as a mature adult. Does that make sense? Like, this
Yes.
is not your linear Minds of Fendelver, get the widget and leave. This is you're dropped in and you expect your characters to change. Like, your characters will grow, their personalities will change. Everything that you're exposed to, like the no good deed in Barovia goes unpunished. There's shades of gray. It's the campaign setting as like you would expose someone in their early 20s who maybe hadn't left their hometown and never really had to think about these complex social situations before. So I think that's my favorite thing about it is like it's not your start at the end and make your way through the dungeon. It's like this is a really complex place with complex people doing really weird stuff. What do you choose to do about it? Do you want to try to make it a better place? Do you just want to try to get out? Do you become the monster? So anyway, it's collaborative. It allows for collaborative storytelling in a manner that lots of other stuff does not.
Yes, 100% agree with you.
And I bleed the map of Death House and Amber Temple and the Werewolf Den. And
listen, the Amber Temple is a scary place, but we'll get into that. So, everybody, if you are not familiar with Barovia and Ravenloft, let me explain. This all came about thanks to Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman in the creation of the Domains of Dread in 2nd edition. This was Ravenloft, right? Where we got to go to a very spooky place and do very, very spooky things in a realm that will change you. Way back in its first inception, one of the cool things that Ravenloft brought about was it brought about a new mechanic. A new way for your DM, your dungeon master, to screw with your players. And as John pointed out, choices matter. Are you doing good? Does it matter? Because they had a corruption factor or a taint factor. Because the world of Barovia and Ravenloft is so rife with evil that simply breathing the air of the realm can change you. Now, how is that possible? The mists. The mists claim you and bring you to Barovia. They bring you to Ravenloft, right? No one knows how or why those who enter are chosen. But those who are chosen for a reason. Be it some sort of cosmic anomaly that causes it, whether it be they're having their own personal internal strife of themselves, right? Or they harbor a dark secret and are actually from this plane of existence. Now, the Domains of Dread, right? Ravenloft was only one of them. However, in modern times, nowadays, we just refer to Ravenloft as the only Domain of Dread. However, we know that there are other domains. Instead of calling it the Domains of Dread, we just refer to it all as Ravenloft, right? Ravenloft is a series of personal hells, for lack of a better term. Every domain inside of Ravenloft, because Barovia isn't the only one, right? My personal favorite does not even come.
what's Lord Soth's called?
His
Remember? His is like
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, he hasn't really actually I can tell you. I can look it up right here because this has them all.
It's
Right?
So what's cool about Ravenloft as the blanket thing is it's like a trip into the nightmares and psyche of these like really cool characters from the books. Like you're literally traveling through the mind of some of
the Death
these
Knight.
characters that you've read about. And theoretically it's where they ended up, but every realm is like an inversion of the
Scythicus.
person who caused its inception.
Sithicus.
Yeah, Sithicus.
Sithicus is
Sithicus.
Lord
That's
Yeah.
Soth
cool.
from Dragonlance. So essentially, some creatures, some beings, some entities are so yay violence. Hi Jim. Anyway, sorry, I had to get that out. It's a catchphrase. It's a thing. I see it. I got to respond to it. Um, so the part of the whole thing, right, with the domains of dread, is that each domain is a personal purgatory for that Dark Lord. That is why the Dark Lord of that domain is the most powerful being, because these are essentially personal little hells that have been created for these Dreadlords, right? So when you do things to affect their world, it has big repercussions. Some long lasting, some not. But it's all a matter of your perspective of how you do it. Ultimately, your goal when in a Dread Realm is to solve whatever reason you were brought here by the Mist, which is half the fun of it, trying to figure out why you were brought here in the first place. The second part is figuring out how to get out. Because just because you complete the adventure doesn't necessarily mean they're going to let you go. So, that being said, we are going to focus primarily on Ravenloft. Why? Because as it stands right now, Ravenloft is the one that has the most notoriety, the most well known, and it is the one that gets played in and stomped around the most. Um, uh, and oh, for those of you who don't know, because I've just got to throw it in there, Hawkmere. If you don't know who he is, go on the Twitterverse and go follow him. You get real world adventures with Hawkmere, where he is one of the kindest and sweetest souls that you will ever find on the internet, and he knows everybody. And he is a true to life ranger.
He
No
said,
joke.
"Stop it."
He is a ranger through and through. All right, Hawkmere Adventures with Jim. Anyway, but that is the Dread Realm. So focusing on Ravenloft. What is Ravenloft? It's Barovia. It is a cool fantasy take on Transylvania. Who is Strahd? Strahd is, well, he's everything from Bela Lugosi to Gary Oldman to all the way up to that one really crazy Dracula 2000 movie that featured one of the brothers from Prison Break that we won't get into. But that's it. That's who Strahd is. He is the epitome of the Dark Lord, and he is the Ancient. I have rambled forever. John, if you feel like, explain to us, if you want, who is Strahd? Why is he so important?
Sure. So a part of my efforts over the years of building the maps and stuff for Curse of Strahd is that I have purposely not learned anything. Right? There's a magic to Ravenloft and a magic to Strahd's story and a magic to the history of Barovia and the creatures in it that once you learn it, you can't unlearn it, like the connections between all the people. And so I've actually made it a point for the last like 3 or 4 years to don't read the room descriptions outside of what I need for Tailspire. And so my character's understanding of who Strahd is, and actually I read some of the books and stuff too. And I don't know how granular you want the history to be, but basically he was an invader to this land, brought an army, defeated the people there, settled down, and then a bunch of really tragic stuff happened to him, real bad. And it was one of those, how badly does he want the thing that he lost? And apparently he wanted it very, very badly at the expense of literally everyone. And the actions that he took to get back what he had lost basically damned him to what is now Barovia. And he's there. He has almost everything he wants except the one thing he does want, forever. And everyone else in Barovia is kind of along for the ride. And so there are powers that be that want to help him achieve his goal. There are powers that be that want to kill him, and there's powers that be that want to maintain this hell, and they will do whatever they can do to maintain it. And so basically, I mean, Strahd is the land, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Strahd, right? Without spoilers for John here or whatnot, is just that. He was an elven, must point that out. He was an elven general. Like, he was a straight up warlord who was chasing down a lich lord, right? And, like, going to kill him. And he got trapped here. And his greatest thing was being separated from the thing he loves and desires the most. So that's his whole story, is constantly trying to find a way to find that which he desires most. And in the process of doing so, he is aware. That is why Strahd is the land, as they say, because he has had to live in what is called the cycle. So every time, every so often, time keeps repeating itself. So think Groundhog's Day, right? Only over the span of like a year, right? So he's constantly reliving the same year over and over and over. And no matter what he does, some things are inevitable. He can change when they happen, he can change how they happen, but no matter what, the end result will still be the same.
So what I'm hearing is that he's absolutely going bonkers, wild, crazy, not having a good time.
Not quite. Because he knows what's going on, he treats this world like, because keep in mind, he was a master tactician, right? He was a master general, right? So he pits people against each other in little games. That's how he keeps himself from going mad, right? And then periodically, the mist will interject new pieces on his proverbial chessboard that he gets to mess with, that he gets to try and find a way to break the cycle, because ultimately his goal is he wants that cycle broken, right? So he can escape, so he can finally be with what he wants to, who he wants to be with, and where he wants to be.
That's so cool.
But in order to do so, the players have to agree to help him. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm not exactly itching when I step through a misty zone and there's a 6.5 foot tall, like raven-haired god of a vampire standing before me going, I believe you should help me with my problems. And then you go, bro, you're just emanating evil. Nah, that ain't cool.
Well, yeah. Like, what happens when you set him free?
Yeah.
Then he's free.
Then
like,
he's free, yes.
Who have you damned by setting him free? But do you not, and just waste away yourself and lose your soul in this place? Like, there's no right answers.
There are none.
It's just not.
And that's one of the cool things about it, is the land corrupts, right?
Yep.
One of the things that I like about it, I don't know, John, you're playing 5th edition, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so for those of you who do play 5th edition, don't hate us. We all like it here, okay? All right, John. Other John's not here. We're all 5th edition likers.
Heck yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty system agnostic for the most part. Like,
that's fair.
It's just a tool.
I'm system agnostic. I know that there are other systems out there and whatnot, but which one is mine? I'm not sure. I like that.
The Deadlands system in Ravenloft would be pretty sweet.
Oh, right.
Do a tarot deck instead of the deck of cards. Anyway,
I have not figured out how to actually do that. I've tried it.
Yes,
no, there is a way to play Ravenloft where you don't use dice. You play with tarot decks. And that is nice. That's awesome. But yeah, there is a way to play it where you only play with tarot decks, and that's your randomizer. Me personally, I haven't figured that one out. However, comma, there are tons of things to do in Ravenloft that don't revolve around the dun 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 Curse of Strahd. Some of the greatest games that I have ever played in the Dread Realms, in Ravenloft, have always had where Strahd is a background character. Uh-oh, Rachel's got a question. Question from the audience, friend.
How big is Ravenloft?
As big or as small as you need it to be.
By the map.
Interesting.
By the map in the book, Barovia, the Dread Realms themselves are like amorphous dream states, but the map of Barovia is tiny.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think we quadrupled the size. I mean, Barovia is so small, you can make across it in like a day and a half, 2 days or something of travel.
By horseback, yes.
Yeah, it's got to be like we were like, this has got to be a misprint that you could ride anywhere on a horse in one day. That just doesn't make it doesn't give it that like epic overland feel.
Yeah.
So I think Kurt was trying to get to is you make it as big as you need it to be to feel
sick.
Yes. So, like, when you look at the map of Barovia, right? Mine is on a wall in a frame, and I'm not going to grab it.
Gorgeous.
Because that's how I view Barovia. It's on the wall in a frame. So the whole thing about Barovia is when you look at Barovia, right? It has like 7 different ecosystems that exist in it, right? Because the mists will make Barovia as big or as small as it needs to be. The key thing with Barovia is that it has to have certain locations at all times. Okay. Certain things must always be present. Where they are always present can vary depending upon, are you here for the Curse of Strahd? Because if you're here for the Curse of Strahd, right, the map has a very specific layout because specific things will happen at specific times. But if you're not here for Strahd himself, you're here for maybe the Wolves of Kozak, or perhaps the undead in the swamps to the south. Or maybe, you're here for, some sort of corrupted druid. Or you're here for the monsters of the monastery. These are quite literally all individual adventures, both in Curse of Strahd and expanded upon in 2nd edition adventure modules for Ravenloft. So I'm not really giving you spoilers. I'm literally telling you like some of these titles that exist for it, right? Villages, entire villages and populations can just appear in Ravenloft and disappear as quickly as they were there. Because the mist itself is this whole entity unto itself, right? Well,
the mists are alive.
You don't know what it is.
I would say, just to kind of poke a hole in it, the mists are what the storyteller needs to justify whatever they want to have you have fun and do creepy stuff.
Love that.
There's a certain amount of like your players need to be willing to go along with the storytelling.
Yeah.
Where you all just kind of collectively agree, the mist made it happen, and then let's focus on our characters and moving forward, and not think too hard about the universe we're in. Let's all do a goth vampire adventure, and
that's such a cool addition to have for a DM to play with in order to make those things happen. That's just so neat. I like this. This is cool. Keep going. Tell me more.
One of the cool things, right? And here's the part that's going to get Rachel going. Let me play, right? Ready, Rachel?
I'm ready.
Do you know how to make a Ravenloft game the most successful and enjoyable game that you've ever played?
I don't know, Kurt. How?
Give me a 12-page backstory. Because in Ravenloft, you may encounter your mother, but is it actually your mother?
I hate that! Oh, I love it!
You may encounter a dead friend from your childhood, but you don't know, is that a ghost?
Well, I did have...
Or is that really them? Because the mists will mess with you and test you. And that's the fun part.
And I would say
Right.
that's kind of my justification for why Ravenloft and kind of the Domains of Dread and the style of gameplay is better for like older, more experienced players.
Yes. Not saying that,
or
yeah.
like people who that aren't going to want to, they're not super interested in I want a +4 thing and I want to do some damage. Like theater kids would love Ravenloft.
Oh yeah.
Like it's about the land is there to explore your character. More so than the land is there to explore and kill everything and get the stuff. That's just not
cool.
And when my group tried playing it when we were in our like late teens and stuff, but we were just like, okay, where's the beginning of the dungeon, right? Like where are the chests? And it was just work for us because it wasn't the style of play that we were after. And so a lot of people I see online on Reddit are like, what's the first campaign setting I should run? And people are like, dude, run Death House, run Castle Curse of Strahd. I'm like, no, don't you dare. Like, unless the players know what they're getting into and the DM is good and understands how to use Ravenloft, you can have a very bad time because there's some concept in like insta-gib one-shot RP encounters that aren't going to sit well with some new players.
No. The thing with Ravenloft is like, so Ravenloft, right? Used to have a kind of like a known disclaimer. Ravenloft is a mature game for mature audiences, right? The current version of Ravenloft with Curse of Strahd isn't quite as grim dark as like the older versions were, right? Some things were removed, some things were changed, what have you, right? But the premise is still the same. If you go into Ravenloft with a how do I put this? This will probably get me canceled or shot or something like that. I don't know. If you go into Ravenloft without a real background of your character, you will get nothing out of Ravenloft.
100%.
Right? If you do not have like my favorite epitome is the epitome of my favorite type of game is getting an entire group of characters who are all, my parents are dead and I'm on vengeance. We're going to Ravenloft because I'm going to make you cry in 3 sessions. Let's go.
And I would piggyback on that and say you need to be willing to have your character change. Like when you sit down and make your character in a character creator in a video game or something like that, like that's your character and that's who they're going to be. That you really need to be willing to have your character change their opinions or think differently about themselves or others to get a lot out of it.
I will say this much too, and this is a key thing, right? I know there is a lot of debate as to whether or not alignments should be a thing or not. But in Ravenloft, alignments matter. They matter very, very much. Not just from a mechanical standpoint, right? But also because you are a foreigner in a foreign land and you have no friends here. You can make some friends, sure, right? But there are no truly good people in Ravenloft. With the exception of 2 people. There are only 2 people who are actually good people in all of Ravenloft. Everyone else is generally defined as neutral or evil-leaning because the land corrupts them.
And the corruption isn't just like it corrupts them to be crazy people. The corruption, like complacent, like depression, soulless people. Right, who have no motivation or ambition, like that. The nature of the corruption isn't just I was a good person and now I like to hurt people. Like no, it makes you ambivalent.
Yeah,
like it makes you not want to make the world a better place. It makes you not care.
Yeah, it really does.
Wow.
Like it is a, not to get like too real worldy, right? But like it would be like waking up one day and finding out your neighbors murdered each other or something like that in the middle of the night, right? And you just wouldn't care. You you just wouldn't care. You'd be like, well, it wasn't my house and it wasn't my family, so what do I care, right? That's kind of it. You have a vampiric lord who at any point in time can drop down, snatch you or any one of your family members, feed off of them, kill them, or worse, turn them into a vampire spawn, and then fly off 5 minutes later, and there's literally nothing you can do about it.
And you don't have the
Yikes.
motivation to end it yourself.
Yep.
Like, it's sad. Barovia's a sad place.
Barovia's a very sad place.
Very sad.
Yes, it
We
is.
can fix it.
No.
Well, and that's the
Well,
and
yeah.
that's the way to approach it.
Like as a prime example, right? I don't mind. I mean, I don't necessarily, want to go down a big long road or whatnot, right? But my storyteller or my dungeon master, Justin Mass, he took us from level 1 to level 20, right? Going
those games are so good.
Going through Barovia, that was our thing. That is
we're level 11 after like
that's where we started. Well, we ended with Tomb of Annihilation. We eventually left the Mist, right?
Nice.
But that was our level.
That character.
That was a level 20 character. That was my level 20 character when we went to the Tomb of Annihilation. But when we were there, I was a lawful good paladin, right? I was a lawful good paladin of Mordane, right? I was a dwarf. I was all about freaking honor and glory and upholding the law and everything like that, right? About a year into our campaign, right? This is my first run for doing Curse of Strahd, right? My second run I did it in about 4 months, but my first run, right? We're about a year or so in, so to speak, right? And he had an alignment shift. And his alignment shift came because he did not understand something about the land. One of the other players, right, took an offering of a dark gift, right? And he was burning all of his laying of hands, all of his cure wounds, everything that he could. He didn't stop, right? Trying to make her come back to life, right? Because she didn't have a pulse, right? What was actually happening is she was coming back as a reborn?
Yeah.
Right? The reborn, where they don't have a heart pulse. They don't have a heartbeat. They don't have a pulse. They're essentially undead, right? They're just a different type, right? And he 100% believed that his god had forsaken him. And for a short period, he was an oathbreaker because he forsook his vows. Because
cool.
Everything had abandoned him, right? And his friend was now dead, and he's sworn to kill and smite undead on sight wherever he goes, right? And now his best friend is undead. You have to have characters with that gravity inside them, right, to really make the most of Ravenloft, because then everything became a test, and it became a how much farther down that track is he gonna go.
That's incredible. Oh, delicious.
I'm so
excited.
Kurt's mentioned a couple of times, like he's played through Curse of Strahd a couple of times, and I think the campaign setting was way ahead of its time in regards to replayability. So not only is the land amorphous, like you can create a whole separate map as long as the landmarks are there, you're fine, and then your new group, as they explore each hex or however you're exploring it, you can discover those landmarks again. But when you first start, there's like the Taroka reading. There's a Taroka reading before you enter Ravenloft proper. And the results of those cards can dictate where some of the key items are in the world if your goal is to progress through the Curse of Strahd. And so you can play a whole new campaign with different characters, do a different Taroka reading, and the stuff you need is in different places. So this is your A Link to the Past randomizer. This is your Bionic Commando randomizer of today, which was in like the 1980s, right? Like they started this.
So if, because it has like so much of that replayability, if you like are going through one game and straight up TPK, everyone dies, you can make new characters and just start again.
Yeah.
And things are like slightly different. It's still in the exact same
It can
world
dictate-
because it keeps just looping.
Yeah,
That's
it can dictate.
so cool.
It can dictate people's personalities. Like you may meet someone the first time you play through, and that person's like your friend. The next time through, they're not your friend. In fact, they're like it tweaks a bunch of the familiar. And actually, if you play through theoretically with the same set of characters who might have survived, it could trip them out because they could have been good friends with this kid, and the second time through, he's already dead, or who knows what.
Oh shoot.
One of the things that I personally love is I haven't seen it happen in my game, right? And I've played Curse of Strahd 4 times now. And I'm telling you that, right? I played it 4 times and I keep going back to it. I keep running around in Ravenloft every chance I get. Someone says there's a Ravenloft game, I am about it. I have ran it twice. I have ran it twice and I have played it twice. One of the things about it, right, is what really will mess with you is, this isn't really a spoiler, right?
Okay.
But if someone chooses to try and replace Strahd, and then you go back and they're now Strahd. Todd Kendrick's wife did that shit when they played through Curse of Strahd, right? She took Strahd's place and she became the Ancient. Yeah. Which that's the thing too that I love about Curse of Strahd. This is a slight plug, right? For all of my friends out there who really want to try, who have played Curse of Strahd but want to try something different, right? Go on DM's Guild. Look up She is the Ancient. It is a gender bent Curse of Strahd story where Strahd is a woman, right? And all the roles are gender bent into women. And it is the entire story told from a woman's perspective. And I'm here to tell you, it is not the same game.
You can't do this to me.
I am not even joking when I say the mind games that come out of that are nuts.
I'm writing it down.
Yeah, of course you are.
In general, if you want to make any money on Curse of Strahd, go ahead and publish yourself publish a Ravenloft adventure at DM's Guild.
Yep, pretty much.
I've made more money with my Tailspire map PDFs, pay what you want at DM's Guild than anything else I've ever published.
Wow. I mean, also your maps are incredible, so it makes sense.
Well, Ravenloft is one of those settings that is, in my opinion, it is a perfect setting because there are rules that are put into place for Ravenloft that don't exist in other settings out there, right? Every setting has certain truths that exist for that setting, right? The thing about Ravenloft is there's only one real truth, right? The mist. Because of the mist and the whole table accepting that truth, that the mist can come and go and do what it wants as it pleases. It is its own living, breathing, for lack of a better term, God, right? It can change things around you in the blink of an eye. And when you accept that, you're constantly walking around in the Twilight Zone, and you know you're in the Twilight Zone, but you also accept that there are just going to be crazy things that happen around you. You just know that it's going to happen, right? Yeah. My fireball didn't work. Well, why didn't it work? It should work. It's an automatic thing. The mist. Well, yep. Okay, got it.
Makes sense.
I'll come back to this point too, which is that I have some really good friends. I love them to pieces. They do not have fun in Ravenloft. But because they like working within systems that they know and can trust. And in Ravenloft, when it can just be randomly, your fireball just doesn't work. Like wands don't work that way anymore because Strahd said. Like there's certain the person playing needs to be a little bit flexible too. And when you sit down to play a game with your friends, they're going to want to do it for different reasons. If it's like, I had a long day at work, I just want to sit down and I just want to kill some stuff, right? I don't want to have to deal with things that change. You need to kind of either be in a mood or understand the genre that you're getting into to sit down and have fun with this. It's I guess this kind of something I wanted to say is that it's not for everybody.
Yes, it is 100%, like John said, it is not for everybody. And it is most definitely, if you are, and I say this to all of you with every ounce of love in my heart, if you are a kick in the door and loot the room kind of person, right? Ravenloft may not necessarily be your bag, because you have to conversate with your enemies. You have to talk to them. You have to let them get through their monologue. Not because
Yeah.
you're actually listening to them, but because they may say something that has a direct effect on events that are about to unfold. Right? Not just with them. It took like that, like, and there are things when you're like, no, I'm not gonna do that. Why would I do that? That's a bad guy, right? You find out you can miss entire chunks of things and be completely lost if you don't accept invitations, you don't have conversations, you don't listen to what they say, if you're quick to fight, right? There are certain things, and there's also something to be said in Ravenloft where retreat is always a very, very viable option.
I think also kind of on that note, running Ravenloft and running the Curse of Strahd is really challenging.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of factions and people and personalities, and your DM is going to put like their flavor of love and storytelling into it. Like, respect your DM if they're running Curse of Strahd. If it feels like they're trying to push you down a particular direction with their NPCs or something, it's collaborative storytelling, yes, and with your improv.
Mm-hmm.
It's so helpful if a player finds their own motivation for their character to go along with something, rather than the whole like, my character would never do that, it's obviously a trap. It's like, well, it's a trap, but man, the stories we're gonna have along the way and the changes you're gonna go through. I mean, I've known DMs that they would just read the book for 3 months, right?
Mm-hmm.
Plan out kind of if they go here then there, because of the open nature of the setting.
Sandbox.
Respect and have sympathy for whatever DM is running it.
I got you, Biggie. Don't worry.
Yeah. It's work. Ravenloft is work, man. It's not like,
but it's a work
Citadel.
of love. It is a work of love, though.
Yeah.
It really is.
Hobby of passion.
I mean, it is, because some of the things. So, some of the things about Ravenloft that make it so wonderful is, for once, right? You know, for I don't want to say, I shouldn't say for once, right? It allows you to root for the bad guy and not feel bad about it while you're playing heroes.
Oh, he's sympathetic.
He is majorly sympathetic, right?
Yeah.
If you don't try and fight him all the time and you listen to what he says, right? You understand that he's in a hell, right? And the moment you start to conceptualize that by looking around, right? It is very easy to develop sympathy for him, right? Like, no joke, sympathy for the devil. That is what's happening when you play the game.
Oh man.
Because as an example, right? There will be points in the story your DM may change it, but like, story as written, right? Strahd can aid you. He can help you. Right? So there are things that can happen when you are playing in Ravenloft, right? You're not even playing Curse of Strahd. But if you start to get overwhelmed in whatever miniseries, one shot, whatever, you're in Barovia, you're in Ravenloft, Strahd knows you're there. He could decide to come help you because his decision making is just as simple as a regular human being's. He could literally swoop down right out of nowhere, right? And just help your character. And then when you ask him why, what do you want? He could just be as flippant as, I liked your dress. I saw you from my castle. And poof, he's gone.
I was bored.
I was bored. The
Why not?
night was young.
I love this so much.
And
I'm being sold.
What we found is that it's so easy just to hate him in the beginning. Like as soon as you step in, you're trapped in this land, you learn that he's got you stuck there, and you hate him and you hate him and you hate him and you kill some stuff and you hate him and you see terrible stuff, and then you start reading the history books and you still hate him, but you're like, okay, I see why you're okay, and then you hate him, and as time goes on, it becomes difficult to just have it only be hate.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas hate is an easy motivator for most characters.
It is.
Most villains too.
And the thing too is much like, how we often view Dracula as an example, right? He knows he's more powerful than you. He knows he can do these things. And he's restraining himself from killing you just on sight until you push him to a point. And you'll know it when you push him to that point. Because 9 times out of 10, there will be a player death when you piss him off. It takes a lot to piss him off, but if you do, somebody's gonna die. Yes, very much. A similar relationship to Zariel and Avernus, right? You're like, okay, all right, you go do your thing. Avenging Archangel, go do your stuff. Yeah, okay, I'm going to go over here now. Have fun storming the castle. Bye.
Wow.
But yeah, no. But the thing is we've, again, talked a lot about Strahd, but the focus is Ravenloft. And there are things that exist in Ravenloft that you can tell an entire campaign around. Heck, was the Amber Citadel? That's what it's called. The Amber Temple, right?
Yeah.
That is a dungeon crawl of brutal dungeon crawls. If you want to do a dungeon crawls, it is so cool, and you get some really cool stuff out of it, but it is brutally hard.
Yeah, and it's definitely the same kind of sandbox where it's like you go in, there is no room 1 then room 2, right? It's just this big sprawling thing that you just as you progress through it, you learn its history, more and more of its history as you go.
Yeah. You start to, the thing that is really neat about it is that the way that the history is written in Ravenloft, right? You start to see things and why they exist. Like the werewolves, as a prime example. I've gone through it 4 times now, twice as a DM, twice as a player, right? The werewolves, because they're there. We all know that they're there. Sometimes they're on your side. Sometimes they're against you. Sometimes they're neutral. And sometimes you never see them, but you always hear them. And it can get unsettling after a while when it comes to that. You've got all your flavors of horror that can possibly be inside of this one contained little unit. Like if you look at it, right? John, correct me if I'm wrong, right? But if you look at like the original Hollywood Universal monsters, right? The Mummy, the werewolf, the Wolfman, the Creature from the Black Lagoon, Dracula, Frankenstein, the Witch, right? All that, they are all there in some shape or form, and you can interact with all of them if you choose to.
That's so cool.
Like, they are all there in some shape or form.
It's so funny how, like, and as you like read through the module and stuff, how much stuff in Curse of Strahd is actually like really hokey.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's like, you know what I mean? Like there are these really hokey, silly tropes out there that made it in, but they usually doctor it in such a way that it's like a thing that you respect, and it's like artfully done. But there's some stuff in there that's still silly. That's still There's a bunch of stuff in like Velaki that's just like super corny.
Uh-huh.
That,
but
it just reminds me like little movie bits, props.
I always took that, right, as a way, because so much of it is so dark, it's a way of them providing a small degree of levity to what's going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, it can get really bad really fast, right? I mean, Von Richten has all these different forms, and, like, one of the forms that he can take is essentially like Doc Brown from Back to the Future, where he's just this out of his mind scientist, right? And that's what you encounter. Or you encounter him and he's more like Van Helsing, like from the movie Van Helsing, running around, you know what I'm saying? Like slaying everything that he encounters. So, there's a very rich way of going about it and encountering it and dealing with things. Now that we have Von Richten's Guide to Ravenloft, it literally expands. Like, if you take, I'm not even joking when I say this, if you take the original Curse of Strahd, you take Curse of Strahd revamped, right? And then you take Von Richten's Guide, right? And you go through all three of them, because there are changes, not just word changes, but actual some story changes between Curse of Strahd and then Curse of Strahd revamped, right? If you take all of that material together, you can always play in Ravenloft and never tell the same story twice. If you want to go the extra mile, you go get one of these guys printed off, right? Which is the Domains of Dread. And then you go and you explore the other Domains of Dread. If you want to go to Sithicus and watch Lord Soth stare into a room of mirrors where he has to relive every great and horrible moment in his life for all of eternity, over and over and over and over, you can do that. You can go to a land where people do not die. They quite literally bury the living because their souls are trapped there eternally, so their bodies can never truly die. They just get tired of walking around. You can go to places where, like, everybody is a werewolf, right? And you being the one person who isn't a werewolf, you're the prey, and that's what they wait for. Is just a regular person to appear, because they know that you are the one, and they will chase you down like a rabbit and hunt you through the woods.
Great.
Again, it's all just a mechanism to play out these like nightmares. I'm all about it.
Dread Realms is a very apt name. It's very aptly named.
Mm-hmm. The Dread Realms.
Straight up dread of everything you just described.
So when you, what's the guy's name? And I gotta look it up because I don't want to mess up his name. So there is what's known as like the Dark Council, the guys who created this place. What is his name? The one that you always deal with. The Lich Lord. No, it's not. Azarak. That's not his name.
Do you like create them to contain these evil spirits, or like what?
Yeah, that's quite literally what it is. They're oh man, the guy that Mark Meir always plays, the Lich guy that he always plays, whose name I can't think of at the moment.
Midsummer
no, not Vecna.
Cat draws, no unicorns or bunnies. Why would we even play?
Yeah, not Vecna. Azalin? Does that sound right? Azalin?
I'm just gonna casually look up Lich Lord.
I'm going to say that yes.
Azalen Rex, says Miss
Azalen Rex, that is correct. Yes, Azalen Rex,
Ah.
right? Thank you. Azalen Rex, yes. He is one of the people of the Dark Council. And their whole thing is, and it comes from the Dread Realms book, that basically there are some entities that exist that are either so evil or so corrupt that sending them to hell, there is the fear that they would take over in that particular setting. So they have to essentially damn them to their own personal hell with an eternal time loop, because that is the only thing that can contain them. Because if you send them to Avernus or to the Hells, they will take over. Yeah, you did, Midsummer. I'm just like, yeah, you did. I'm like, God, what is it? Nailed it in one. Yeah, but it is, you can tell truly spooky stories, and some of the best stories that I have ever told and I have ever run in Ravenloft have always been the same thing. We don't mess with Strahd. We don't. We mess with something else. We go and we deal with something else, and Strahd is just in the background, right? He's just this omnipresence that you just feel when you're running around. Sometimes you'll see him, sometimes you won't. Nothing greater will get your players' hair standing up on the back of their neck when they think that they're here dealing with some sort of lost trinket or item that happened to end up here, and they were chasing some robbers, or they were, what have you, and they end up here, and a well-dressed man stands with raven black hair, stops, looks at them from across the bar, digs their vibe, and then just walks out. Because the players know who that is, right? But the characters don't. And they're like, are we here for Strahd? No, we're not here for Strahd. We're here for the necklace. Yeah. We're here for the necklace. But it's that little hint. He knows you're there.
And if the characters do know, there's always this fine balance of like, we want to do good but not too much.
Mm-hmm.
Like we don't want to get attention.
Does he not like good things happening?
That's the thing, is you don't know. Like,
yeah.
does he like things how they are and he doesn't want them changed? Like, some of the creatures there are big and nasty, but he really likes them, and other ones he doesn't. And you never know if he likes the thing you're fighting or not, because sometimes you'll be battling a foe, and that foe truly believes they are enacting Strahd's will.
Mm-hmm.
But as the characters don't know if they are insane or not. Like, did they really talk to Strahd, or are they just like seeing visions of him? And so you never know what you're gonna do.
The mind games.
That's gonna be too good or too bad, or the wrong person or the right person. So
So whoever wrote Strahd, right, gave Strahd a line, and he has had this line since 2nd edition, and I swear it is the scariest fucking thing that you can ever hear from a big bad evil guy, right? Your greatest weapon was being beneath my notice.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, when that line was first dropped on me, it was one of those like, what did we do? No. What do we do? Can we go back? Right? Yeah. Last save point. Last save point, right? Reload.
Yeah, reload.
We got our group got an invitation. We were walking down the road somewhere, and some dude rode up, and like it was kind of his right hand man or whatever, and like gave us the invitation to dinner, and we were like, oh no, like whatever protection we had before is now gone.
Yep.
Like there's no going back.
So what I'm hearing, you don't want to be invited to dinner. You don't want.
No.
Well, it's a
toss-up. It's a coin toss.
So the thing, So the thing is, right, is being invited to dinner can go horribly wrong, but it can allow you to learn things that you will not be able to learn at any other point.
Or if you're about to die and something's about to kill you, you can tell the thing, I have a dinner to go to, and it will fucking leave you alone.
Yeah.
But then you got to go to dinner.
Yep.
So that's the thing, is like nothing in Barovia is as it seems. Everything has a double edge to it. It's just beautiful.
Yes. Nothing is free, and your greatest weapon is anonymity.
Yeah. I hate it. Thanks.
Oh no, Rachel, you of all people, I know would absolutely love it.
What's beautiful about it is after you played a bunch, you learn a lot about it. Is in playing it over again, there's this sense of like, well, I kind of know everything. I know what's going on. Like, there aren't going to be any surprises. A little bit about it is actually designing characters where you're like, I know this situation's going to come up. I want to see my character react in that situation. And so even if you know the course of events, wanting to play through it with a different personality or do different stuff. And so that decision of like, okay, should we accept the invite now or wait or whatever, one character to another might have a completely different response to that. And that can completely change the course of the campaign of when you go.
So one of the DMs, we had an interesting situation happen, right? One of the players refused Strahd's hand because Strahd decided to pursue them. But they made a deal instead, and they ended up having Strahd become their warlock patron.
Sick.
Right? And Strahd basically cut them a deal saying, I will infuse you with power if you help me garner, and he gestured to another member of the party, their favor.
Yo, that's wild!
Right?
I need this in my life. It's not a want, it is a need.
Just got to convince someone to go read the campaign setting for 3 or 4 months, and then there you go. That's all you need to do.
One of my friends is doing it at the moment for a different thing that he's a part of. Oh my gosh, that's wild.
I feel like for a DM, having Ravenloft in your pocket is like playing the piano. You know what I mean? It really is. Like when you learn Curse of Strahd, you learn all of the factions and the dynamics and the subtext and it's like running Dark Souls, where you're going to learn some stuff from talking to people, but so much is learned just from seeing things in the environment and exploration.
God,
and
I love
so
that.
As a DM, being able to say, yeah, I can run Curse of Strahd, it feels good, like a sense of accomplishment.
It is.
Yeah.
And if you're like my poor friends, when they went back, they were not the same. They were not the same.
Your friends are like, we want to go ride dirt bikes, and you're like, nope, all I've got's Curse of Strahd.
No, I mean, like as a prime example was, the players themselves, right, didn't realize just how apathetic they'd become to things. So when they left the Mist and the Mist released them, right, back into the world, right, just for shits and giggles, the DM said, you witness a murder in an alleyway. What do? We just said, are they coming for us? And the DM said no. And we just said, okay, and just kept walking.
Brutal.
Because by that point, we were subject to it so much.
It's like, I want to go sleep.
Yeah. Right? Like
that's just your every regular Tuesday.
Yeah.
In fact, only seeing one is pretty lucky.
I mean, oh, good day. Only saw one.
Oh.
Right?
Yikes. I love it.
But that's just kind of how it, that's just how it goes. When you're in a realm where it's essentially eternal night, and the daytime is like barely lit, overcast skies. The weather, oh god, the weather in Ravenloft is a major factor when you are playing in Ravenloft. It rains regularly. It's gray.
It's just London?
Foggy.
It's dark, but it's 1 in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
It's gray again.
Mm-hmm.
More gray.
But if you do something
Does
good,
these have color?
it's slightly less gray.
Oh, my
There you go.
favorite color.
That's your big win. Your big win is like, yeah, like the sky is like it's not dark. It's still gray, but it's not dark.
One of my favorite things is one particular spell that I was mean. You guys can tell me how mean I am now.
Kurt, we know this.
Okay. All right. We all know that I'm mean. I had a player cast Sunbeam, and I told him it didn't work.
Oh, that makes sense though.
They're like, oh, so I get to keep the spell slot, right? And I'm like, no.
Yikes, that's mean. That part's mean. So yeah, is there color? Is it kind of like Shadowfell in that like a lot of things are just kind of black and white and
No. There's color, but think like you've got a Martin Scorsese like funeral filter over everything that you're looking at, right?
Got it.
It's not that there isn't color, just everything is always a shade darker. It's not vibrant, right? There's red, but it's not vibrant red. There's blues, but it's not vibrant blues, right? That's more or less what it is. Everything has a very subdued color to everything that's around it, and it's a reflection of the lack of joy and life that was in there.
Or if it does have bright colors, it shouldn't.
Yes.
Like.
Okay, we've been rambling.
Crimson red, yes.
Yeah, right? We've been rambling, and I recognize we're rambling, so I hope that everybody's having a good time. Questions.
I'm having a fantastic time.
Questions. Will there be... What? Thanks for the sub, Jay. I appreciate that.
Are there
Give me 10 to 15. Don't worry, we got you. We're just talking about vampires and spooky shit.
I mean, Ravenloft scratches an itch for me, right? Like, when I want to role play, like, it's kind of the go-to. I personally can't do Ravenloft for, like, a long period of time. Like, it's tough if, like, you have, like, a long week at work, and every week when we get together to role play, it's, like, this ultra-depressing setting.
Yeah.
And so it's funny about, like, seasonal depression. I think it can be brought on by people describing the weather in Ravenloft.
Oh yeah,
like it will just happen to you. Yeah. So I will say that that is kind of my relationship with Ravenloft is I need to be in a mood, or if I know it's coming, then I need to do something like fun that day because I know
that is. You know what? Honestly, to piggyback off of that, yeah, 100%. If you are gonna play Ravenloft for the long haul, right? Like you are 100%. We're going to go into Ravenloft. We're going to do some spooky shit. We're going to this other. I would recommend a 3-1, right? A 3-1 setting, right? You play 3 sessions or something of Ravenloft, but that 4th session, that one, you guys go play some
goofy cartoon.
Yes, some goofy
kids on bikes.
Yeah, well, no, not kids on bikes. That is not any better by a long shot.
Is it not?
No, it is not.
Oh no!
Like you need kids on brooms. That might be better.
That's the one.
I listened to the one. I listened to the one shot about that one. Right? Yeah. No, that's not a come down.
It was Kids on Brooms.
Yeah, Kids on Brooms is a little bit better.
It was the magic one.
You're all wizards. Another go play some Humblewood or something like that or whatnot. Or just have you all sit around and watch, I don't know, Lilo and Stitch together or something on that 4th one. Because it will start to affect you. There is no doubt about that. It will start to affect you because it's designed to do that.
is a must. Have some sit with your friends and talk about it maybe after the session a little bit.
Play something on that fourth Friday or Saturday of the month, right? You play something else, something a little zany, something a little different, right? If you still want to play fantasy, play some DCC or something like that, because that shit gets all sorts of zany in good ways.
I've got Mondays is Curse of Strahd, and then Tuesdays is Dark Sun with Kalak.
I mean,
which is like the darkest of the dark, then the brightest of the bright.
Right? I love that. God, I love Kalak.
So good.
He's so good. What? So we talked about like the Amber Temple as one of the locations in Barovia, but are there other locations that aren't too spoilery that you guys are like super hyped about?
I mean, the town itself, dealing with the Burgermeister, is always fun because that can go so many different ways. My personal favorite thing as a DM, though, is trying to watch the players, like their characters, go, screw this, we're leaving, and try and walk back through the mist. And they spend almost a whole session trying to escape back through the mist, but the mist keeps putting them out at different spots in Barovia, right? And they're like, what is going on?
I think for me it's less about the location. So Amber Temple's super cool. I mean, everybody knows, like, I mean, you can talk about the Wizards and Wines, and most people are gonna already kind of know what that is. For me, it's the NPCs. It's which NPC is the party gonna love? Because there's always one. It's always like, so in our game, it's Yeska. Like the priest at there's a church in Vallaki that my character has decided that Yeska is like, when my character dies, Yeska is gonna carry on the quest, and he's like some schmucky priest guy who's like, why do you think I'm capable of that? And my character's just like, you just don't know it, you know, like, and it's just,
I see it.
The party will latch on to these NPCs and they will just, you know, invest everything, and it was just a passing NPC, you know, for the DM or whatever. Like the character that the DM wanted us to love, we just don't care about at all. It's the random kid who dropped his shoe, right, is now
ours was the lady Waklia, however you say her name. Wagner, right? Her imp, Majesto.
Really?
We freed him, and he became our friend and followed us around. We fed him cookies.
Oh my god, that's
he was
awesome.
So okay. So to do that, the character that the players fall in love with, right? This is a prime example of why Boblin the Goblins exist.
Yes.
Because, like, as a prime example for us, it was Majesto, right? He was our touchstone. He was our anchor point for, as we were playing our small dose. It's an imp from Avernus that is here, right? But we fed him cookies. He liked us for feeding him cookies, and he would do things and tell really, really bad jokes, right? So he was our constant degree of levity. Whenever shit got really, really bad, you knew Majesto was right around the corner with some sort of a one-liner, right? That was probably really, really horribly timed and completely inappropriate. But we were just like, God damn it, Majesto, really, man? Like, you know, but like it was our touchstone. It was the thing that kept us together. At one point, something happened to Majesto, and we were ready to fight one another. Like, our players were at our characters were at each other's throats, right? And then a crazy druid took a shot at Majesto and wounded him. And we all turned around and we turned that dark druid into paste by the time that we were done, right? Come to find out that Majesto engineered the whole thing because he was tired of seeing us fight one another.
It was like an illusion.
Oh, please tell me that Majesto never died.
No, Majesto ended up becoming our chronicler. So
Let's go.
when it was all said and done, when we were level 20, it rounded out that Majesto was sitting down in Avernus with a giant tome, and he was like writing our story in blood, but he thought it was cool, so he felt it needed to be like in the annals of time, and if it's in hell, that hell will never go away. So it was the only way our story would remain forever.
That's so cool.
Just to bring it back to the double-edged nature of Barovia, yeah, whichever NPC your players love, I think Majesto got lucky.
Mm-hmm.
Because that, like, the act of liking and loving anything in Barovia is like basically guaranteeing that it's gonna die in a horrible fashion. And then there's this whole question of like, were they better off not knowing us? That tears you up for the rest of your character's life.
Stop it! No, that hurts.
I'm here to tell you right now. Be glad John doesn't ever take Finley to the Mists, because that's the first guy to go.
Dude, like, I thought it hurt when that whole situation with Marcus happened. The evening Finley had left and he posted that little snippet in the TOA roleplay channel, I was nearly having just a panic attack the entire evening. Like, my little guy is gonna die. This is awful and really bad. And he didn't. Almost did. But that's this game. This is not about that. He does. He has a whole chain vest now.
That won't save him. But those kinds of things. So no. I'm utilizing Tears of Aird as a level of context.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So like, as you know, like to show the levels of corruption, right? Someone like Click, as a prime example, in Barovia would just be Click. David would not exist there. It would be gone. He would be way worse than he already is.
Yeah, that'd be really bad.
Barovia would validate everything.
Everything.
Like Click's vision of the world.
Oh, now I'm curious about how the TOA would do.
So, dude, have them all fall asleep and
have them all fall asleep.
Do a Barovia one shot with the TOA group. Ooh.
John, if you watch this VOD, let them fall asleep and then just change chairs with me and let them experience for just the briefest of moments.
Same. How would Daisy be? Oh my god. Oh, anyways. Wow.
Rachel hates that I continually plot the demise of her little mouse.
I do. I love him, but he's a rat. Excuse you. They're bigger and stronger and smarter. Thank you, Manda.
Oh my gosh. He's a little mouskovitz.
No, he's a little rat. He's my little rat.
Listen, the Great Mouse Detective only dealt with one rat, and that was Ratigan. I don't think you want that in.
Oh man.
Oh my goodness.
What else about
Ravenloft?
What else about Ravenloft?
Barovia.
So
it's a sexy, crazy nightmare vampire goth realm, and if you're not into that,
this is a key thing, right? Some people need, when playing in Ravenloft, they need mechanical reasons to do things, right? That's just a fact, right? Some folks legitimately need mechanical reasons because we don't ever want to see our characters as anything but what we see them as. We can justify anything our characters do, right, as good, bad, or indifferent, right? That's just the way that it happens, right? Because we don't ever want to see our characters as anything but good, for lack of a better term, right? Because at the end of the day, psychologically speaking, almost every character that is ever created in D&D is essentially an alter ego of yourself. Let's just be real. I don't want to break any barriers for anybody, but that's kind of what they are. So a lot of times, they had it in 2nd edition. Ravenloft had its own character sheet and everything for this, right? Was they had corruption scales, right? because the land is supposed to constantly be just walking around in Ravenloft is supposed to affect you, right? 5e, much like every other edition of existence, right? You can do with it what you want. I always recommend having corruption points inside your characters. Always have corruption points. And then define your scale for said corruption. Once they reach a certain point, right, you and your player have a discussion about alignment shifts, right? Or physical manifestations. That's one of my favorite ones, is the physical manifestations of things, right? I 100% treated corruption like becoming a Sith Lord. Like their veins started to blacken, their eyes started to change colors, right? Their skin became cold and clammy and pale, things like that, right? As the corruption slowly started to eke its way in, right? And it became harder and harder for them to commit good acts. I went so far as to create, for those of you who are familiar with Vampire the Masquerade or Wraith the Oblivion or whatnot, right? It is said that your beast has a voice of its own, right? So if they went far enough down the corruption track, right, I would start to voice what little of their conscience they had left. And it wasn't always a good thing that the little voice inside their head was telling them to do. So there are so many ways that you can play with how the corruption will affect the players. Now, don't get me wrong. You will have that stalwart player every time, right? You may be that stalwart player who's like, I'm going to do what's good no matter what sort of adversary I will buck against the system and I will do what is right. But what's the worst thing about turning on a flashlight in total darkness? Everyone can see you.
Yikes.
Well, that and as a human, as a character or whatever, keeping that up with maybe nothing, like with no tangible evidence that you upholding and doing the right thing is doing anything, and in fact being confronted with every time you follow your instinct, it ends up to be wrong and you hurt a bunch of people, and the exhaustion and the wearing down. My character, so our characters started having the physical manifestations of the corruption. And our characters have no idea what's going on, but some of the players are addressing it. Some of the players are like, hey, everybody, look at this weird thing. And others are just in absolute denial. Like, we have enough going on right now. Like, my character's shadow is coming alive and doing weird, really strange things whenever my shadow is there. And my group is kind of collectively ignoring it for now. Because we have a bunch of, really, stuff that's happening right now. And I think if they told my character about it, my character would actually become very difficult. And they don't really want to deal with that. So that example of, I'm the moral beacon, imagine them suddenly becoming corrupted and, growing horns. Right? Do they acknowledge it? Do they ignore it? Do they, does that sway them from the course? And actually, honestly, if it doesn't sway them from the course, then as a player, you're doing yourself a disservice, because that'd be a fucking fun thing to roleplay.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Oh.
Very big. Yeah.
Hey, it's PG-13, so we get 1, and that's our 1.
I had 3 earlier. That's okay.
I didn't hear him, so it's fine.
This is Ravenloft, a mature game for mature audiences.
Very true. From what I know so far, of course.
But yes, that is one of the key things about Ravenloft that has to be addressed, is the fact that the very air you breathe is slowly corrupting you. It's not a disease. It's not something that you can restoration, greater restoration or lesser restoration it away, right? It is something that is quite literally eking away at your soul. And through the course of events, you'll be offered dark gifts. And they're called dark gifts for a reason. And so you can either go with them or go against them. And as Rachel will find out here soon enough, being the mag light on a starless night is going to do nothing but draw attention to you. And attention you may not want. Because here's the thing. Ravenloft and the Dread Realms will push you. And push you. And push you. Until you crack. And you will crack. Everyone cracks. That's not a euphemism. That's not a
Oh, yeah.
That is not a challenge to accept. That is just a fact, because
you're doing us a mercy and telling us that you will.
You will crack. And you will crack in ways that you don't think that you're going to crack. It's like my paladin. All of his healing didn't do anything. There is a text conversation going on behind the DM screen and the other player under the table, very much stating, you don't move, you don't breathe, you don't this. And I'm sitting here going, I burn another spell slot, I burn another spell slot. Because he kept doing, make a constitution save. Because the magic is corrupted. He's making her make constitution saves, but never stating the DC. But my character, right, was not one to give up. And he kept going, and he kept going, and he kept going. And then, when it was all said and told, and he was out of spell slots, he was out of laying on of hands, they were all spent, right? She sat up, but she had the pallor of a corpse. And now I'm sitting here staring at a corpse that was my friend, right? And that's where I broke, because I swung my mace at her. And it didn't kill her, because I could not smite her. She just took the hit, and then the rest of the group stopped me. And then that's when I became an Oathbreaker. Because I was not to raise a hand against an ally. But was she an ally anymore? Was
because
she
it was
not
the
an ally?
undead. Love it.
We had a situation where, I mean, just a catastrophic series of events that were so terrible, the group finally stopped, and we were like, "Are we real?
Mm-hmm.
Like, are we actually real people, or are we in a dream? Well, because this can't possibly be real." It was so terrible. Because if we were real, we would then have to accept the responsibility for what happened. And it was us just like, this can't have happened. Like, we could not have done this. We can't be real. And if we're not real, then we would be absolved. We've had some really intense conversations, where the only answer is to crack or give up. You can crack and be crazy and move on, or just like drop right there, be done with it.
Wow.
Go farm or something.
Well, this has been enlightening.
I don't think Rachel ever wants to play in Ravenloft.
Oh no, I do. I'm terrified, but something that I love about TTRPGs is that you just feel things that you would never, hopefully, feel in real life. And man, people say that, like, I use TTRPGs as therapy. Like, no, you need to go to a therapist. But like, the people who generally say that are the people who are playing in Ravenloft, because you find out a lot about yourself. Just how much you are willing to allow happen.
Oh man. Oh, before I forget, before we raid, I just want a huge shout out to Heimdallr, my business partner, bestest friend for DMing Curse of Strahd for the last 3 years for us. It is not easy to do. It is heavy lifting. So that's just my own shout out to the person who is shaping my journey through Ravenloft.
Heck yeah.
Heck yeah.
Well, all right, friends. Man. This has been a deep dive into Ravenloft. Are there any final questions, final thoughts, anything? Rachel, John, and I have been word vomiting about the land of Barovia and the realm beyond the mists. I gotta know, what do you think? Before we raid over to Jay, I gotta know. What do you think? I know you were taking notes the whole time.
Oh yeah.
The vampires are nasty.
I am so excited. I am terrified, but oh so excited. Just like you said, you sold me when you said that 12-page backstories are what you need, because that's what I write. That's what
Any
I do.
Any backstory you write can and will be used against you.
Yes.
In the land of Barovia.
The shortest backstory I think I have written was the one that I gave to you for Vossen, because I tried to keep it as summarized as I could, which is very difficult for me. But obviously I wanted to leave little holes so that you can have fun. And fun you are having.
Oh yeah, it's great.
But everything that I've learned about Ravenloft and the Domains of Dread so far is incredibly, as I said earlier, aptly named, dreadful. And I want to know more. I want to know so much more. What's up with these dark gifts? What's up with that?
Okay, so
exactly what they say.
Exactly what they say.
I want to play that.
No. So the dark gifts, all right. I'll part this one before we raid over to Jay. The dark gifts are quite literally that. They are temptations presented to you that could possibly keep you in the dark realm if you accept them. But they are quite powerful in what they can do. One such dark gift is you essentially get 2 unseen servants in the form of spectral ghosts as one of the dark gifts, right? Yeah, so you essentially have two ghosts that follow you around that only you can see, that can do things.
Our cleric had a third eye grow in the middle of his forehead.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I don't know what that's about, but that happened to him.
Just happened?
It gives you true sight.
It goes this way. It's like an up and down eye. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
It gives you true sight. You can see all things. It's creepy as shit.
But he got it so that he could use it to help someone else escape.
Oh, I love it.
He damned himself basically to help others.
Well, all right, friends. This has been Running in Ravenloft with John. Thank you again for dropping in with us for tonight to talk about all things fun in Ravenloft.
Thank you for letting me self-invite.
Oh, yeah, sure.
It was a pleasure to have you on.
And thank you, as always, to my lovely co-host, Rachel, who is just, innocent until goes to Ravenloft, and then, well, that'll happen.
Proven guilty.
Yeah, right. But stick around with us as we are raiding. Stick around with us as we are going to be raiding over to Lord Gazamba. You know him, you love him. We're gonna talk about all things. Oh, we got a question. We got a timer.
Yeah, if you guys are watching and you're not following,
oh no, wait,
it's a heart. Right. You should press it. If you are following but you aren't subscribed, it's free on Amazon Prime. You should totally check that out if you haven't. But if you were a subscriber whose subscription has lapsed, awful. I have one question for you. We all do.
What
are
you doing? Give us a follow. Give us a sub. What have you? Stick around. We're rating in tonight. TOA on Sunday. Yes. And then tune in.
And I think follow Red Dawn as well.
And follow Red Dawn, and then tune in next week for next Tuesday, very specifically for a Halloween Halloween Dark Sun, I believe, is what's happening.
Oh, for Tuesday.
Right?
Yes,
It's
yes,
cosplay, cosplay Tuesday.
Cosplay
and hopefully
Tuesday.
there's not a TPK.
All right,
yeah,
friends.
that'd be yeah.
Yeah. All right,
And
everybody.
then
Have a
next
good night.
element, catch your cantrips. Oh, that was so fun.